Brought to you by thevirtualinstructor.com. And now, let's get sketchy.
Well, hello there, everyone. Matt here with thevirtualinstructor.com, and welcome to Getting Sketchy Live, the greatest live broadcast in all of YouTube. I hope everyone is doing well this evening. And for those of you who are in the southern part of the United States, even further south than we are, I hope you're digging out of the snow, or at least enjoying it while you have it, because it's such an abnormal experience for you guys. We missed out on the snow. That usually, when we have a snowstorm that is that far south, we usually get plummeted. I can't even talk tonight. We usually get destroyed by the snow, but this time we didn't get an ounce of it. So I was actually kind of happy about that, because we still have snow on the ground from a couple weeks ago.
From 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Anyway, tonight we're going to be warming things up, hopefully, as Ashley's going to be doing the drawing for us. For those of you who don't know, what we do here on Getting Sketchy is one of us, either myself or Ashley, we try to create a drawing for you inside of 45 minutes. So we'll have a timer up and everything. And we also try to put a little bit of instruction in there, and also entertainment as well. And that's what this show is all about. If you are watching this live on YouTube, there is a chat box. Of course, you can ask questions or post comments. If you do have a question or comment that's directed at Ashley or I, we ask that you use the super chat function, because not only will that get your comment or question prominently displayed in the chat box, but it'll also help our channel out as well. And Ashley's gonna be working from a photo reference this evening. And if you want to have that photo reference in front of you, you can go to the community tab on the YouTube channel. To do that, just click on the icon of my face in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, and that will take you to the YouTube channel. While you're there, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and then click on the community tab. That will take you to our community tab, and you'll see the top posting there is a link back to this video, and also the photo reference that Ashley's going to be using. And like I said, Ashley's going to be doing the drawing tonight. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for asking. I was lost in thought over here looking at my reference, so we'll talk a little bit about it when we switch over. But it's good to be back with you guys. It's been a week, and boy, has it been a fast week. So here we are. Let's draw.
Yeah. It has been a quick week. Let's see. I've got one more drawing left.
That's right.
You've got two more.
Including tonight. So, and then with our critique show, that means we've got 4 shows left in the season. So I hope you'll be with us for all of the next month.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, speaking of the YouTube channel, I don't really do a lot of analytic stuff when it comes to YouTube and all that stuff. But I did happen to notice the other day that only 2% of the viewers of my videos, 2%, are actual subscribers. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
2%. That means if let's just say 100 of you are watching right now, 98 of you have not subscribed to the channel. That's kind of crazy. So subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free to do that. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a like, of course. Now,
Matt, I used to do that. I had a lot of channels that I watched all the time, but never subscribed. I would just look them up time after time after time. So finally, I'm subscribing to my favorite creators, and it's making my YouTube experience just a little bit easier, a little bit faster.
Is it?
Yeah, it really is. They're videos that I would like pop up in my feed, and I spend less time looking and more time watching.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. So subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're here because you're interested in drawing, why not take your drawing and painting skills to the next level? And the way to do that is through instruction and practice. And I honestly believe that the best art instruction you can get on the internet is at thevirtualinstructor.com. Clearly, I'm a little bit biased, but we do have a ton of content over there that's easy to understand. It's easy to digest. We've got a ton of members over there, and we'd love for you to be part of our program as well. You'll find a ton of drawing and painting courses on pretty much every medium you can imagine and every subject matter you can imagine. And we also do weekly live classes. In fact, right after this broadcast, we'll be doing another live class for members. We do weekly critiques as part of the Members Minute, and there's also a year-long curriculum for visual arts teachers over there, which includes absolutely everything you need to teach for the entire year. If you want to learn more about the program, everyone starts out with a week-long trial for free. You can learn more, and you can start your trial by clicking on the link in the description below this video, or you can scan the fancy QR code there in the corner of your screen, and that will take you to the page where you can learn more about the program and also sign up and start your free trial. Beyond the free trial, we also offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, and the program is ridiculously inexpensive. Most people can't believe that they get all that they get in the program for the price that it is. So I would encourage you to check that out. If you want to just check out 3 of our course videos, ebooks for free, there's a link in the description below for that as well. And that will put you on the mailing list so I can send you more free stuff and also send you new stuff that we post on the website. All right, Ashley, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right.
We'll go ahead and switch over.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So we've got our reference there on the left. It is, in fact, a fire hydrant, pretty standard, kind of a stereotypical fire hydrant. You'd be surprised how many different fire hydrant designs there are around the world when I started looking for a reference, but this one feels kind of cartoonish to me. It feels very familiar. So the subject, I did get the subject from Pixabay, and you might notice at the very bottom left corner, the picture looks a little bit funny. There's a little bit of green grass down there. And because the picture was originally green and it was tilted, it wasn't a great photograph. So I straightened it up a little bit. And in fact, to slide it over in the composition, just so that it wasn't right through the center, I used Photoshop's generative AI tool and added some background on the left edge. So maybe about 10 or 15% of the composition was totally generated by Photoshop's generative AI tool. So pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting there, huh?
Now, I didn't use the AI for anything else, but I did use the burn tool just to strengthen the contrast a little bit. So where you see the darker shadows on the right of the fire hydrant, a little bit of that was burned a bit so that it got a little bit darker. Now, these are adjustments we could have done without a digital aid. You know, we could have just started drawing from the way the reference originally looked and slid that fire hydrant a bit to the right in our composition anyway, even if it wasn't in our reference. But, you know, doing so, changing the reference gives us a better idea of our target and if we're going to like it. And then we could have made the shadows a little darker than they were in the original reference when we were drawing. But again, changing it in the reference just lets us know if we're going to like it or not. So I did quite a bit of editing to this image that is, in fact, copyright free. So anyway, I hope you're going to enjoy the fire hydrant drawing tonight. And I've always, in my own art classes, I've used the fire hydrant as a subject for guided practice with my own students for a number of years. So it's a subject that I like to draw because it's so geometric. You know, there's a cylinder in the middle of there. With all of the extra heavy metal parts around our fire hydrant, it's really just a cylinder with those parts added on. So that's what we're going to start with, is a cylinder, and a cylinder is a symmetric object. So is a fire hydrant from certain angles. This one's not, but the form inside of it is symmetric. So we're going to start, and Matt, I guess you can go ahead and bring up the timer and get it started because I'm going to start making marks.
Well, first, do you think this is?
Go ahead.
Do you think this is the kind of stuff that dogs dream about?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you mention that.
Yeah.
I was on the fence between this fire hydrant reference and another that had a more descriptive background. The background was blurry, but you could tell there was a dog back there, and I thought it was such a funny photo. But I didn't choose it. So if there's any dogs out there watching tonight, this one's for you.
Yeah, there's lots of discussion about the dogs there. All right, I will bring up the timer.
I didn't mention our materials, Matt.
Oh, you didn't? All right, you go ahead and do that.
Yeah, they're pretty basic, but our paper is just white sulfite drawing paper, 80-pound drawing paper. I went ahead and wrote the dimensions at the top. It's not very big, 3.5 inches by 4 1/8. And I'll be using Statler pens tonight, and then also possibly a Copic multi-liner, which is it's very similar. It's just got a slightly wider line. So I've got 2 different line weight pins for drawing. I've got several of the Stadler pins. They actually belong to Matt, and he keeps them pretty well stocked because they do sometimes run out while you're drawing and you have to switch pins. So I've got a couple of those. I do have a stick eraser because the drawing's pretty small, so my eraser's pretty small, and a kneaded eraser maybe to lighten our drawing a little bit because we are going to start with pencil and then switch over to pen. This pencil is an F pencil, and I like it because it's unusual. There's only one F. There's lots of B's, there's lots of H's, and then there's the one F. And the F pencil is very similar to an HB. It's only like a half a step lighter than an HB pencil. So if you've got a regular writing pencil, it's about the same line weight or pencil weight that I'll get from this F pencil. All right, that's it. The materials are pretty basic tonight.
Okay, well, we have a super chat before you get started.
All
so
right.
Give that a quick cheer.
Yeah!
And that is from Jan, and he says, look forward to another fun art session tonight. We really appreciate it, Jan.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
You're a regular supporter.
He's a regular supporter. Yep, absolutely. All right. You ready?
Yeah, if that's
all right.
it. We'll
45 minutes on the clock.
Bring up the timer.
And you can take it away.
All right, so we're going to start with a vertical line that is just a little bit to the right of center. So before we went live, I put a mark on my tape that I felt like it was the center, and then played around with a couple of marks till I thought I found what would be the sort of like the spine of our fire hydrant. So we'll go ahead and drop a light plumb line down through our composition, just trying to pull our pencil straight at us so that it is vertical, pretty parallel to the right edge. And then we're going to start drawing around it. And this line is going to help us make comparisons between the 2 sides, the 2 halves. So I mentioned before that it is a cylinder inside of our fire hydrant. So we're going to go ahead and start that cylinder, and we're going to start drawing both sides at the same time around our plumb line.
Okay, we got a few questions, and we'll see if I can catch up with all of them. First of all, Pastor James Burns says, when you're doing an acrylic painting, should you do an underpainting and then sketch what you're going to paint? An example, a landscape or still life. And I'm going to let Ashley keep drawing, and I'll answer that.
Okay.
You can do either or. If you like to have a graphite drawing to, kind of plan out what you're going to do, that is definitely an acceptable way to create an acrylic painting. You can also create somewhat of a looser line drawing with acrylic paint before you start painting. A lot of painters like to do that. And then some people like to just start painting shapes and just start putting them down directly on the canvas. So all of those approaches are totally acceptable. It's whatever is best for the way that you like to work. Edie says, I find symmetrical subjects to be the most difficult and time-consuming to get right.
You're right.
If it's off by a hair, it's blatantly obvious. And this is a symmetrical object, but the angle that we're looking at it makes it asymmetrical. So thankfully there. We do have some symmetry right down the core of it, but...
in the dome.
The dome
on top.
Yeah, and the cylinder in the middle. But other than that, it is asymmetrical, so it can be off a little bit. Let's see. Buddy says, great idea writing down the size so everyone joining later tonight will see it.
Oh, thanks.
And
it's
there was a question
remember as well.
There was a question. I think it's, let's see, I got to find it here. Mary Elizabeth says, not a joke, what does the F stand for? Fine. And I do believe you're correct. I do believe the F stands for fine. At least that is what I have been teaching people for years.
I thought it was the fun pencil.
It's the fun, fantastic, fine pencil.
Fine pencil. All right, and you can see I'm just bouncing from one side to the other in an effort to keep things as symmetric as we can here in the beginning of our drawing.
And while we're talking about graphite grades and the pencil designations or the letter number designations on there, just so everybody knows, you'll notice that the softer pencils have a B beside of them. There's 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, so on. The B stands for black. Because those pencils are darker. But the H pencils, the H stands for hard because the graphite is harder, which I think is a little confusing. I think it would have been better if whoever designated naming the pencils that way would have made the softer pencils with an S, maybe, if they were going to have the harder pencils with an H.
I wonder if it's from a different language.
Yeah, but still, even if it was from a different language.
Where the word soft starts with a B. Word for soft.
I don't know. I've always known it to mean black.
Yeah. Black and then the other one's hard.
Yes. So it's kind of weird.
I think you made that up.
I don't think I did.
Nah, I'm kidding. It is odd. All right, and we do have quite the series of ellipses in here. So we'll take our time with those. There's a lot of detail in here around these ellipses, and we'll include as much of that as we can in our sketch, but we may leave some of that out, really focusing more on the form and the light or value. Light and the dark.
Okay, here
There we go.
the internet has confirmed that the H stands for hard and the B stands for blackness.
Blackness.
Yes.
Interesting.
So there you go.
There you go. All right. I think we'll put the ellipse on the bottom and then try to fill in all of the hardware in the middle. So in order, same thing that I did here, I'm going to do down here. I'm looking at where the ring, sort of the flat ellipse, disappears behind or appears out from, the cylinder. And so the farther we go down, the more of that ellipse is going to be, or the higher up from the, I guess what would be the corner of our cylinder. I know cylinders don't have corners, that part will appear to come from. So I'm going to toy with these two spots and then come back down here and work my way up. See if they come together.
Okay, interesting enough, we have a conflicting bit of information here.
About the B?
About the B and the
About
H.
the B.
Another piece of information says H is from the word H-A-U-T, which is a French word, which if I know it can't be hot. It's got to be pronounced differently, but it means high. And then the B comes from the French word bas, which is B-A-S. It means low.
Like relief.
Right.
Like bas relief.
So two conflicting bits of information.
Each of them supporting our alternate theories.
Right. We have two different.
So we got more information, but not really
two different theories.
Yet.
Let's see.
We need a tiebreaker.
It looks like, let's see, there's...
And I don't speak French, so I can't verify that myself. I need somebody else to do it. All right, that looks pretty okay. Maybe come out just a little bit further here on the right in my own drawing. See what that looks like.
There are more pieces of information to support the hard and the blackness than there is the hot and the ba.
High and low.
But
you
know what?
I actually opposites of one another.
I know. I actually like.
Makes sense.
I actually like the hot and the ba.
I think you just like saying hot.
I don't. It's getting hot in here.
I know the next line. We're not going to do that.
Okay. Buddy says last week the can has been in the 3-point perspective. Why doesn't it seem to be a 3-point tonight, but a 2-point perspective?
I thought about that myself when I was looking at the reference. So we're not really looking down on this very much. Our eye level is just barely over the top of our fire hydrant. So We need to be looking more dramatically up or down at our subject to really need that third dot if we were going to use vanishing points to create our subject. So this one is a 2-point perspective vantage point. That's correct. And that may play a little bit into some of our choices of direction with regards to our hatching or cross hatching with our pinned work.
Yeah, and honestly, buddy, we really see everything in 3-point perspective
all the time.
But it's such a minuscule difference in line, unless we're looking at the subject from very low or very high up. And really, when we're looking at objects from very low or very high up, typically that's when we kind of think about 3-point perspective. But when we're looking at an object straight on, typically when we're dealing with perspective, we're probably considering 2-point or 1-point perspective. Right. And you could use lines of perspective here to frame out some very simplified cubes or cylinders. If you wanted to, to go that route. Ashley's drawing really more from observation, but keeping the perspective in mind. But you really could put almost any object that you draw in 3-dimensional space in one of the forms of perspective. And we've got another explanation for the H and the B's. Let's see here. But let me back up because we got a pronunciation lesson in French, and I don't know where it went. It's not hot. It's actually, I can't find the description, but apparently the word should be ho. Ho and ba.
So it's either hot or ho.
Hot.
I don't think I'm saying it right.
I think it's ho. H-A-U-T is, of course, pronounced ho. I'm just going by what people are. And then Lord Engine says pronounced hot. Hot. And Jan says Coronor claims to have invented it in 1814, and they meant Hardmuth and Jovis, the latter a place name. Okay, interesting. Learning all kinds of things. Yeah, HB, I've always understood to stand for hard black, B. And she says this is from the Faber-Castell site. So Faber-Castell agrees
reputable
with the H pencils, the H referring to hard, and the B referring to blackness. But I do like the other explanation that I found on the internet, although it's the only place I've been able to find it. All the other pieces of information all are kind of agree that H is hard and B is blackness. But I do like the ho and ba. All right, so you've got a pretty good form going on here.
Yep, it's happening. Just ellipses everywhere.
Going pretty quickly
and
there.
I'm using parts we've already drawn to try to find the other parts on the other side. So I've been kind of comparing where the top of this largest ellipse, how it lines up with what's happening on the other side. I think they're straight across, but I'm going to double check that because they do have curved corners. And this corner might actually, or this ellipse, maybe just a touch lower. Need to be.
Okay, Jan says a Czech factory place names both of them apparently. So that Czech is short for Czechoslovakia. The hard and black explanation is a later back explanation that makes no sense. It really does kind of make no sense, but I think they should change it to H and S.
Let's start a pencil company.
Yeah.
Let's start a pencil company to fix this.
We're going to add more confusion to the world.
So it looked to me like this ellipse is widest in this direction here. So it took me a minute to realize that, but I think that the axis of this ellipse is at an angle. So kind of squeezed it in a little bit this way. And maybe it looks that way to you folks as well. I hope so.
Edie, you're correct. She says, I thought HB was the midpoint between hard and soft, and it is. HB is right in the middle.
Yeah, just your average pencil.
Now, I told my students for many years that HB stood for Hubert Bartholomew.
Yeah.
I would tell a story of Hubert Bartholomew, and he had two sides of his family. He had the H side of his family, which was really rough on him and really hard. Then he had the B side of the family. They were a bunch of softies that let him get away with everything. HB.
That's a good way to remember that.
Oh, it's Chesnia. It's Chesnia, not Czechoslovakia. Thanks, Mark, for pointing out that it doesn't exist anymore. But I think this was from a long time ago, is what Jan was talking about. So,
alrighty. So we've got a few more little elements to add, and then we'll judge it. Maybe move a couple things around. And then start adding some value.
Sonia says, Matt and Ashley, hello. Would you please be so kind as to explain why all capitals are necessary when commenting or asking questions? I'd hate for anybody to feel like we are trying to be rude to all guests. Sometimes the chat box gets going really quickly. It's not going very quickly tonight. I can kind of keep up with things, but sometimes the chat box is just flying, and I can't read all of the comments. So by putting it in capital letters, that allows me to scan and find comments or questions that's directed at us.
And so, yeah,
and
right,
not just people talking to each other.
Folks talk to each other in there.
Yeah.
And sometimes the questions or comments aren't actually meant for us.
So yeah, you're not yelling. It's only in an email when all capital letters are yelling. That's the rule. I found that on a website on the internet.
The rules, how to properly yell in an email. Okay, there we go. And there's a lot of little pieces to this thing.
Yeah, a lot of structural elements there. Now, when you start adding the ink, are you planning on kind of a looser application or more rigid?
I think so. I hope so, but I don't know. I'm feeling a little tight tonight. That was the intent. All right, just all kinds of little squished hexagons, different directions.
Yeah, Jan, maybe the rule of the capitalization is yelling everywhere else on the internet except in this chat box. So we don't take it as you're yelling at us.
Not at all.
Or anybody else for that matter.
How are we doing on time? 28 minutes?
You have 28 minutes left.
All right. See what we can do with that. We are not far from ink. We can make some little adjustments, but not many in the ink once we start laying down our values. One thing I am going to do is draw in the highlights so that we're careful to preserve them while we work. All right, let's see. I think this may be the last hexagon shapes we'll draw. We'll add the bolts that go in here along the bottom after we've actually shaded across the bottom. So the top of the bolts are the same value as the bottom ellipse, and the sides are all darker, so we can always add those in.
Now, let's see. Sketch. Shinover, yeah. Says, I'm late, but I'm here for the live watching today from West Columbia, South Carolina. I'm wondering how much snow you got there, Sketch. I know you got some. Tell us how much you got.
We're jealous. I'm jealous.
I'm like
That's
not
less jealous.
kind of really jealous. Like I said, there is still snow. I'm looking out the window. I can still see snow out there. And
It's the ice chunks is what it is now.
Orion Nebula says, I've heard people say that 2B are the number 2 pencils from school. 90% sure number 2s are closest to HB.
Yeah, pretty close.
You are correct. Number 2B pencils are darker than number 2 pencils. Okay, Buddy says, Ashley, I would have placed the inner circle right in the middle of the outer circle and still don't see where to place it. What is your measurement?
Well, if you're talking about this small circle here, those are some thoughts that crossed my mind. Where does it land? What I looked at was how close was this inner circle to the edge right here, where that light arrow is, compared to here. Now, you'll remember that I believe the axis for this component runs this way. So I was looking at how close that small circle is to the other axis that would be perpendicular to its the one that represents its widest dimension. So that's what I was looking at, this empty space. It's not really negative space, but it's just an empty space between 2 contours here and an empty space between the contours down here. And this one looked like it was noticeably larger. So I don't know if it's twice as big or less than that, but it's definitely larger. So that's why I didn't place it in the center. I used the information in the reference to prevent me from doing that.
All right.
Good question.
Yeah, good answer. Bear in the Garden says, can you talk more about drawing ellipses? Are there any keys to mastering them aside from simple practice?
Yes.
I've practiced in drawing buttons from different angles, but still feel I'm missing something.
So now, I don't know if Matt can stop the clock because I'm drawing something else now. We'll just keep going. It doesn't matter.
I cannot stop the clock.
We're still going to make it on time.
Well,
so if this is the axis and you're going to draw an ellipse around it, I like to actually put 2 little marks that flare outward from there. And then remember that the part of an ellipse that's closer to us usually or can look a little bit rounder and larger simply because that half is closer to us. And then the back half is a little smaller because it's further away, and that makes it slightly less curved. So that's a pretty fair ellipse. It's not quite symmetric, but you can see the front half is larger, and it would work as like a tire on a car or something else, so wheel of cheese. So, and then the other thing I try to remember is that ellipses don't have corners. So I always try to make it round here. You don't want your ellipses to start having corners, Picasso. Okay.
And I'll just say there, Bear in the Garden, that I have a lesson on drawing ellipses, and I share several strategies for drawing ellipses. We also cover that in the course 25 Days to Better Drawings, which is part of the program at thevirtualinstructor.com. If you go over to thevirtualinstructor.com and use the search function and just search for ellipses or ellipse, then you'll find probably both of those lessons that will pop up. And I share a structured way of drawing ellipses, no matter what the angle is. And that's really helped me, and I think it's helped a lot of other people out as well. So you might check that out. It's somewhat similar to what Ashley pointed out. You basically find the top and the bottom and the edges, and then you fill in the rest. But it's a simplified way of mastering ellipses, because ellipses are very difficult.
Sure are.
And we have another super chat. And that is from Sonia. Thank you so much, Sonia. And her comment is, Matt and Ashley love all your wonderful lessons. Thank you for all you do. Well, you're very welcome. And thank you, Sonia, for your super chat.
Go ahead and erase any stray lines like the plumb line that we used to start our drawing. And then we'll start shading. We've got about half of our time left for that. So hopefully that'll be good for the size that we're working. I was going to work a little bit larger and then pared it down just because of, because we do have the the time constraint. And we are working with pen, which is a small mark medium.
And Sketch Shinover says they had 2 inches this morning, but now they have 1/8 of an inch tonight. The roads are clean. That's pretty good for Columbia. That's 2 inches more than we had. But Laura says she has 9 inches in Milton, Florida.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Storm of a lifetime.
9 inches. Wow.
That's awesome. Well, our relatives in New Orleans, they sent us a lot of pictures of the kids playing in the snow. It's nice to see. And I was surprised they actually had proper attire on. So I guess people saw the snow coming early enough to order some winter coats, because we really need winter coats very often in the Deep South.
Let's see. Sonia says, I've been working on the 25 days of drawing and did the ellipsis cups. Very good. It's a great exercise, drawing the cups from different angles. And looks like Sketch Shinover tried to make a delivery from Connecticut, and they didn't show up to unload because of this little bit of snow. What you got to understand is, down here, really more so further south than where we are. We typically see at least a little bit of snow every year, but a little bit further south, snow is quite a novelty.
It's like a unicorn of weather.
And people don't know how to act when the snow shows up. Yeah, they definitely don't know how to drive.
You probably shouldn't. I mean, if you don't regularly drive in icy weather, you probably just shouldn't.
You have to slow down in snow and ice. And I don't understand why people around here don't get that. They're like, oh, there's snow and ice, I'll just drive 5 miles over the speed limit.
Yeah. Well, instead of the normal 15.
Right.
This is NASCAR country.
That's why there are all those pile-ups and things. Yeah, I'm over it too, Orion Nebula.
Bring spring. Bring on the spring.
And the question is, how would you draw snow? And if I was to, it would depend on what medium you were working in. But, you wouldn't necessarily draw snow. You would actually just leave snow, or you would erase it out. That's the approach that I would take. If I was using graphite, for example, I'd probably cover the scene with powdered graphite and erase out the snowflakes using a electric eraser, probably.
All right, just still hitting our contours a little bit. Trying to keep our lines light and loose. Now, this is the kind of drawing that I would love to spin around, work on it sideways and upside down, so I may have to contort myself at times, trying to get my arm to come down from the top. We'll see how that goes. Does everybody do that? Does everybody work sideways and upside down?
I've got to the point where I don't anymore.
Really?
Because everything I draw is on that table.
Everything's being filmed,
and everything is taped and adhered down. And
right.
So
you've really gotten accustomed to not even thinking about doing it.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, more people talking about how to draw snow. I was just thinking about like snow falling. But yeah, snow would be very similar to like drawing sand. The only exception is most of your shadows are going to be blues and purples. They're going to be cooler colors. And, shockingly, I have a lesson where I draw a snow scene with colored pencils. We have a big hill in our neighborhood that everybody goes to sled when it does snow. And the past time it snowed a couple weeks ago, I counted over 100 people there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, tons of people. But I did take a photo of that scene a couple years ago and did a colored pencil drawing. And it's a free lesson. It's over on the blog, so you can check that out. But I do draw snow in that lesson.
I have a hard time liking snow scenes, like paintings of snow scenes.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
It's because it's cold.
Yeah, maybe it's just the subject that turns me off. I do like that. Is it a painting by Frederick? Of like ice and icebergs smashing up against each other up in the Arctic. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh my gosh. It is so good. And I may not have the artist's name right, but I'm going to find it for you and show it to you.
You know, I actually like snow scenes and stuff. When I'm thinking
I think I've seen so many that are poorly done with like gobs of white paint everywhere, like you said.
Yeah.
Not necessarily using blues and purples.
Well, I was thinking about all the snow scenes I've done, and for acrylic, did I do that with acrylics or oils? I think it's acrylics. I did a live lesson series where we did a snow scene with a little creek running through a big field.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really enjoyed that painting. It's actually up in my living room.
I'm sure I would like that.
Yeah, you would like that one. You would like that one. There's no gobs of white paint everywhere.
All right, just looking for some darker areas right now, and
it seems like you're going the more structured route tonight.
Yeah, I guess so. I plan on cross-hatching some. I know a lot of times my inclination is just to hatch.
Yeah, I did do the snow dog from last year, but that's kind of cheating a little bit because I allowed the white of the paper to be the snow. Really, all I did was paint the shadow. But the shadow was blue. There's a little bit of snow on the dog, but that was a watercolor painting, so I did have to rely on the white of the paper for the snow parts.
So on a lot of these parts, I've got two choices for cross-hatching. Like on, for example, the barrel of our fire hydrant, I can shade up and down, and I can also shade in a cross-contour fashion. So those are the ones that we're going to put together for that.
Yeah, you're right, Mary Elizabeth. There is no cheating in art. I'm eating my own words. Thank you for using my own words back on
against
me.
You.
Yeah.
Pretty dark under here. Definitely crosshatch there.
And buddy, I think, were you asking last week in the chat? I'm not sure if it was this chat box or with the live lessons on asking on how to practice drawing. Was that you? If it was, well, tomorrow I'll be releasing a video on YouTube on how to practice drawing. So I made that video because someone asked in the chat box about it. But it will be published tomorrow, and that will probably be helpful for all of you who are watching this. It was you, buddy. Thank you for confirming that.
Mm-hmm.
So the video has the video is how to practice drawing, but I cover 9 principles of an effective drawing practice, and specifically point out what activities you need to be doing to improve quickly and practice with purpose. So hopefully that will help you out. Starting to see some good contrast up there.
Yeah, it's starting to happen.
You do have 11 minutes left.
What do you think about that?
I'm thinking you might need to go faster.
I need to speed up a little bit. I felt like I had all the time in the world.
That's how it always works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, when things are going well, you feel like you're going quickly, and then you look at the clock and you're like, oh my gosh,
where did the time go?
Well, you did spend about maybe 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes talking about the ellipsis.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm going to hang on to that.
Rick says, ever try pointillism in pen and ink? And yes. And I do not like it. And it's really, I'm not trying to be like an art snob here, but pointillism, the word pointillism, I know exactly what you're talking about, Rick. But the word pointillism really refers to
color
painting. Yeah, color. Using color in a way where it optically mixes on the canvas, like we saw with Seurat. When we're using small dots with pen and ink, that's called stippling. And I'm not trying to be an art snob. I'm not trying to be an art snob, but this is a good place to, use proper terminology. As you've learned from the HB pencil conversation. But yes, I have done lots of stippling, and I used to do it a lot. And I did one illustration many years ago of a Volkswagen Golf, and it was from different angles. And I did it for a client, and I about lost my mind, and it was all stippling. And I said, I am never doing this again. And I have eaten my words. I have done stippling several times since then for course videos because people really love stippling. But it's so time consuming. It does give you excellent control over the values, but it is extremely time consuming. And I kind of prefer a pen and ink drawing to be more linear. And so that's just me personally. But the time constraint is really the big thing that keeps me away from stippling much these days. I'll do stippling for textures occasionally, but not to create a finished drawing just because it is so time consuming. And another thing, it can be difficult to create the darker values with stippling. A lot of stippled drawings kind of end up looking a little bit light, and the edges are a little bit less clearly defined because you're creating edges with dots instead of a strong line. But yes, I've done stippling, but it's pretty straightforward.
Now, I did have a student do a stippling with colored pens.
So that would be considered.
It was a pointillism drawing.
Yeah, that would be considered pointillism.
It's pretty rare. It's pretty unusual.
And Mary Elizabeth asks, can you still erase the pencil marks? And the answer,
yeah.
Absolutely,
sure
yeah.
Can. All right, let's see.
All right. Well, we've got another super chat.
All right.
Yeah.
And this is from Enrique. They say, I love these pen and ink drawings of common objects.
Yeah. Good, because I do too. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I wonder if people share my love for common everyday objects.
Now, and Enrique, I've got another plug here. There's a course. I know it sounds like a broken record, but really there is everything over there. There's a course I created called Subjects with Pen and Ink, and it is 31 pen and ink drawings that you are meant to draw along with me. And there's lots of common objects in that course. Lots. And it's all done with ink. We do, in fact, there's stippling in that course too. Only one drawing though. But we do ink wash. We do line drawings, cross hatching. So if you really like drawing common objects, then you should check that out. I think I might have linked to it below this video too. So, and right now, currently, if you are watching this video live, we are still offering 50% off individual course sales. All you have to do is use the code COURSE50, all one word, at checkout, and you can get 50% off any of the courses or classes that we have for sale. Now, if you're a member, you already have access to all the courses and classes, but if you're not really interested in being a member and having access to everything, you can purchase courses individually. Again, that sale will be ending very soon at the conclusion of this weekend. So you still have time. Now, I'll point out that Ashley's hatching and cross-hatching marks are flowing around the form of each section of the fire hydrant. So you'll notice both the vertical lines and the horizontal ones. The horizontal ones curve around the form, while the vertical lines just go straight up and down. So those lines are typically referred to as cross-contour lines. And when you're doing hatching and cross-hatching, it's really important that you allow those lines to flow over the form of the subject that you're drawing, because not only does it develop the value, but it also tells the viewer information about the form that you're drawing. If those lines were pretty flat, then you would lose the form and make the drawing look pretty flat. Let's see. Dale says, by the way, there is an electric stippling pen available these days.
Oh my gosh. It's like a tattoo gun for drawing. Yeah.
Let's see. Sketch says, I did an 18 by 24 elk and antelope and stipple art, probably 60 hours each one. It's not a quick medium. Yeah, and by making an 18 by 24, wowzer. That's pretty big pen and ink drawing, much less a stipple drawing. That's a lot of time right there. I would think longer than 60 hours. I would think double that.
Yeah. Commitment.
Oh, Enrique says, I've already purchased your course on pen and ink drawings. Well, there's a couple pen and ink courses. So there's subjects with pen and ink, and then there's the pen and ink experience. The pen and ink experience course is really for people who are just brand new, absolutely brand new. Subjects with pen and ink is really more for people who want to hone their ink skills. And yeah, Dale says that those stippling pens are expensive though. So
I bet they are. Probably worth it.
You're paying for time, I guess.
Yeah.
I wonder how, the tips of those pens, I wonder how they hold up, because that's another thing about stippling is they really destroy pens.
I don't know. I mean, if it's electric, I imagine it's got some real power.
Right, I'm talking about the tip.
Yeah, maybe there's like replacements, because I imagine they would wear out fast.
Let's see. Buddy says, Ashley, I would have wrongly drawn the horizontal lines and curves to follow the contour. What would it have been wrong?
Well,
not really sure which contour lines you.
Like if I had crossed hatch without any curvature to these lines in here, that would have been wrong. And I think for these parts like this disc and this one here, they're flat across their top. So I need to use straight lines. But if I would have used vertical lines, I think that would have been wrong. So the horizontal lines help this disc and this one feel like they're flat, a flat plane. So yeah, I think that answered. I think I understand your question.
Yeah, and if you were to cross hatch maybe a shadow on the right side of that bottom lip, you could curve around the curvature. You totally could do that. So wrong is a hard word to say that is the correct word. Yeah. Because sometimes doing things differently is not necessarily wrong.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's not necessarily one right way to do it. But what we're doing tonight makes sense to me with our directional choices. Mm-hmm.
You also kind of have to think about the directional stroking that you use here to create contrast between one plane and another. So sometimes, it might make sense for the contour to go one direction, but it might not make sense to make the line go in that direction because it butts up to another section of the drawing where the lines are going in the same direction. So sometimes you have to change the direction just to create contrast. Hopefully that makes sense.
I love cross-hatching because it's forgiving. You can revisit areas, decide to make them darker. There's always room for more lines.
Yeah, it's the rule of you can always go darker, but it's harder to make things lighter. Definitely applies to hatching and cross-hatching. You can always go darker, but if you go too dark too quickly, it's a little bit harder to reverse. Yeah, Mary Elizabeth, you are quite the astute student there. She says, the sneaker ink drawing you did was great to show that, talking about changing the directional lines to create contrast. And yes, when you bringing that up, I remember talking about that in that lesson series. Very good.
Oh, time's up. Oh my goodness. Wasn't paying attention.
Time is up, but there's still time to put the finishing touches
maybe a couple
there.
More minutes. Get back a couple minutes from our ellipse talk.
And Margaret says, I learned a lot about pen work with the Lizard Man. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There was a lot of different types of line in the Lizard Man drawing.
A lot of mark making in there for sure.
People who don't know what the Lizard Man is like, what are they talking about, the Lizard Man? For those of you who don't know, I created a composite image in Photoshop of a lizard man sitting on a couch with pictures of bugs around him. And we did a drawing of that in pen and ink for a lesson series.
And that one was a lot of fun. What was his name? Clyde?
I think so. Yeah, I think we named him Claude.
Name. Yeah. He was very dashing. Was he wearing a tuxedo?
He was wearing a suit. I can't remember if it was a tuxedo or not.
Yeah. I can't remember. It was cool. All right, let's see. I'm going to put just throw some marks out here. Just to ground our subject a little bit on our white ground. And it's the feet caught, Matt.
Okay, a couple things. Thanks for reminding me of that, Mary Elizabeth. Yeah, it looks like it's frozen there.
See that?
I see that.
I started this shadow.
That camera's still going.
Okay. Yeah, I started this shadow and looked up and there was no shadow. So what's going on?
Yeah, that one's still frozen.
How about that?
Weird.
Yeah.
I hope that camera didn't finally die.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm glad it didn't freeze earlier, but
yeah.
We can't
Let's see.
that.
Mary Elizabeth reminds me that Phoenix said hey to you.
Oh,
and said,
super.
Mr. Hurst. So I'm assuming that Phoenix is probably one of your real life students.
One of my excellent art students. He's in my Art 1 class and he does fantastic work. So Dale, glad that he's in the chat tonight.
Dale says, if you were to continue, what would you do with that background?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because what I was going to do, but we've run out of time, was I was going to start at the top with and shade in this direction a little bit, getting lighter as we go down to about 2/3 of the way down, and then do it again, but in this direction. So very cross-hatched with diagonals that are nearly flat. And that would have played into the perspective a little bit also, created a little bit of space, kept the ground feeling flat, but a little more interesting than completely level lines. So that was my plan for the background. I guess And in 2 weeks when I draw again, we'll put the background in. So no, I'm kidding.
Okay, just so you guys know, the frozen image, that one right there, is not. It doesn't have anything to do with the stream. It has something to do with the camera or the connection to the camera here.
Okay.
Which we'll have to work out. But I'm showing here we had 0 dropped frames tonight. So,
yeah, that's what I was worried about.
Yeah, it's not a streaming issue. It is a camera issue, which is a little scary because that's never happened before.
Yeah, that's unusual.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up here. I would like to get darker. There's room to get darker, but our values are in place nonetheless. It's just a little bit less contrast than where I had hoped to finish out. So, but it's not entirely unhappy with the sketch. The structure looks pretty good. Sometimes I move on to shading, I feel like a little too soon, and accept some drawing irregularities. So I didn't want to accept those as easily tonight. So we spent a little more time on our ellipses maybe than I'm normally inclined to do. But I'm glad I did, because even if the drawing ended up a little lighter than where I was headed, even stopping out still looks okay. All right.
Still stuck.
Oh my gosh.
Moment in time captured. All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm kind of bummed that the main camera is acting weird, but I went over there and looked at it just now. If you felt my presence behind you.
Yeah, I did. Oh, yeah.
And the camera's working fine. So it's something with the connection to the camera. So we'll work that out here before we go live again in 30 minutes.
That's right.
All right. So excellent job there. Lots
you.
of good comments.
Thank you.
Looks
I'm happy
great.
about
Great
it.
job. Wonderful work, Ashley. Great drawing, Ashley. Thanks. Looks great. Nice work.
Thank you so much. I did loosen up a little bit when Matt said we've got 11 minutes left.
Yeah.
I could tell my mark making really changed.
Well,
Probably for the better.
It came together really nicely and very quickly as well.
Thanks.
All right. That's it for the comments. We'll go ahead and switch over and give ourselves a little bit of time to fix that camera issue before the next show here. All right. All right. You guys for sticking around for the last hour. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll continue next week with just 3 more episodes to go after tonight. And if you're wondering what I'm going to be doing for next week, well, it's going to be a surprise, but it's something that some of you have asked for. So you'll have to wait.
So it's not that you don't know. You know what it's going to be. You're just not going to reveal it.
I'm just not going to announce it first, and the reason why I'm not going to announce it is because in order for me to be able to pull that off, I have to find the right image to work from.
Okay, so you don't want to hem yourself in.
Right. I haven't found that yet, so I still have the freedom to change. Yeah. But if all of the planets align, then we'll do something a little bit different next week. But you'll just have to wait and see. I will have that information up earlier in the day like I always do. For those of you who don't know, I go ahead and get the video set up, and I also put a link to the photo reference earlier in the day, usually by lunchtime. So you don't have to wait until we go live to have the photo reference and have the video already up and everything. And also, we broadcast simultaneously on the website too. Under the live tab, you'll find Getting Sketchy there. And also TVI TV, which is 24 hours a day live broadcast of premium content from the members section of the website. It's just a small fraction of what's available to you. But I usually put 6 lessons up there from courses or from lesson series. So you can watch that 24 hours a day. All right. Ashley, got anything else for the folks?
Stay warm if you're in a cold area like we are, and I hope you have a great week. Do some drawing on your own, get some practice in with your pens, and we'll meet back here next Wednesday to see what Matt has in store for us. I love surprises.
Ginger says the planets are literally aligned since the 21st.
Well, then you'll find your reference. You'll find what you need.
Some other things need to fall in place too. So it's just the planets being aligned.
Even more than the planets.
Yeah.
The planets aren't enough.
If the planets have been aligned since the 21st, why hasn't my life changed? Yeah.
Well, there goes that theory. So.
All right. Have a great week, everybody. Make sure you leave a comment below. Tell us what you have to say. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And all of those 98% of you out there, subscribe to the channel. We are very close to 1 million subscribers. And if you're one of those 98% people out there not subscribed, just click on the subscribe button. That will really help us out. All right. With that being said, good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.